Bugsy Benjamin, back at it again with another video. How you guys doing out here on YouTube? How's your day going? Yeah. For those of you guys that are wondering, subscribers, new subscribers, I know I'm talking to what, like 15 of you, 12 of you. I'm slowly building back up my channels. I had probably like close to 50 something videos, and I had deleted everything. I didn't like, the quality, and then wanted to extend the length of my video, and I was recording it on my phone, and my phone is almost like at capacity. It has like only 10 gigabytes of space left. Still have the iPhone 11 from like 5 years ago, so I'm in dire need of an upgrade. What was I going with this? Yeah. So not enough space, so I can't record longer form videos, in excess of like 30 plus minutes. Sometimes my shit, rants, extend to that length and even sometimes longer. Like, can foresee my content, lasting into an hour, sometimes maybe even two if I have, a million and two things to say about a certain subject that I've thought deeply about. So, yeah, instead, now we're in the dungeon, the undisclosed bunker location, where I can record my videos as short or as long as I want. It's a lot more accessible. Obviously, stand up, boom, pop up on the computer, and hit live or hit record, and you know, let the rest take its place. So, yeah, this is my work in progress. Gonna be building back all the videos that I had from before, different topics as well. I didn't like my first 10 15 videos that I put out. I was talking about like finance and if we were in a depression, and kind of talked a bit about myself. I didn't really like, probably kind of oversharing to a certain extent. So kind of took it all back down and then rebuilt it back up. That's why my first video, getting back to the basics. It's kind of, you guys gotta, get used to. Part of the topic that we're gonna talk about later today is, be willing to take 2 steps back to take 10 steps forward. Be willing to restart and, tear something down, destroy, demolish something that, you didn't need, or, you could improve on. And instead of building up on something that's not stable, or is old and it's not relevant today, demolish it and then build back something up again, with today's bylaws and requirements and standards and quality. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, so it's a work in progress. I'm gonna make mistakes. Obviously, the longer my videos, the more fumbles and bumbles, the more probable people you might see coming in the background. My sister, my niece, my son, my mom. You might see my mom from time to time. So yeah, that's gonna be the new gig from now on. I'm trying to be more. I keep saying trying to. I am being more consistent and getting videos back up, and I'm trying to get to a video or two a day, at least. Because now it's just so easy to just get up, press record, rather than me doing it on my phone and having outside's freezing too. Outside's like minus 20. It's not as cold as it was in the past like week, but it's still full of snow and ice. Like the weather's just this winter's been terrible. So we're all cooped up inside. I'm in Toronto, and even you guys in the States, even you guys out in Tennessee, Texas, Florida's got to like minus 10 apparently, and you guys are worried, starting to get worried about the palm trees and shit. So America is basically Canadian weather, bro. Like, I don't know why you harp on Canadian weather. We live Toronto, for example, Southern Ontario, for example, is farther south than a lot of northern U.S. states, and we experience warmer weather too because we're inland and we're not on the coast where we get the cooling effect of the water. We do because of the Great Lakes to a certain extent, but not like if you're on the coast, continental coast. But yeah, so this is gonna be the new thing. Kind kind of told you guys on a video or two ago. I got a sign coming through, but it was supposed to my neon sign, my Bugsy Benjamin neon sign. I can't wait to get that shit up and to show you guys. But it's coming soon. It's supposed to arrive today, but I don't know. It was in Mississauga and it's still in transit somehow, some way. I need to call Canada Post and find out what's going on. So yeah. Today I want to talk about people that live in the past, and for those of us that live in the future, like myself. I live in the future. I'm future focused. I don't dwell on past mistakes. I don't, dwell on past circumstances. You guys, the average person that you come across, you talk to in a day, in a random day, the person who limits themselves mentally because they think that's what society that's where society placed them, so they trap themselves in that box. Most people blame their circumstances based on their past decisions, based on past mistakes, based on how they were treated in times past. Most people blame, timing wasn't right. Most people blame I was born in the wrong season, born in the wrong year, in the wrong generation. People will blame their family, their siblings. A lot of people like to use the past to dictate their present and to make excuses and to justify the present. Just a lot of explaining. A lot of people do explaining for their current circumstances and the present way of life, their present lifestyle. No matter what it be. They could have 10 vices. And it's just constant justification as to this is the reason why I do that. This is the reason why, I continue to smoke cigarettes and I can't quit. I tried nicotine. I tried going to the doctor. I tried, the patches. I tried it all, and I continue to smoke cigarettes. Drinking beer or heavy drinks. If you drink rum or if you drink whiskey on a daily basis, you're an alcoholic. That's a habit. Those are bad, destructive decisions. But a lot of people blame these micro decisions, these terrible micro decisions that accumulate and end up destroying your life slowly, insidiously over time. People blame their past. They blame the person that introduced them to alcohol, or they blame the person that introduced them to marijuana or cigarettes or whatever drug it may be. Or they may blame something that someone else did to them personally, or even just every day, like we're on the road, but people cut each other off from time to time. 9 times out of 10, the person that cut you off didn't mean to do it intentionally. They have no idea who you are. You just so happen to be the vehicle that was in that moment while they were deciding to switch lanes and cut someone off. But a lot of people internalize that action of getting cut off, and then they become angry, and they put blame on that person who did the cutting off. As long as they didn't do it intentionally. They didn't mean to, the intent wasn't to cause you harm, to make you upset. They're either oblivious or were unaware of the rules of the road, or oblivious that someone was even in the lane approaching behind them. So, I think people need to think about when to internalize feedback and when to recognize when a response is not needed, or when you need to take agency for something. Me personally, I like to take agency for pretty much everything in my life. At this point, I assume and I've come to the realization that I must take agency for every decision that I've made, even circumstances that I can't control, such as my lazy eye, such as, you know, my build, my height, my the intelligence or the lack of God has blessed me with, you know, the circumstances that God has placed me in throughout the seasons of my life, you know, from elementary school days, and you know, field trips and high school to up to high school, you know, and shop days, and you know, hanging out in the plaza, you know, driving up and down the city in grade 11 and 12, and then you know, going to work, working at Zellers, working at Bell, and then you know, going to school at Centennial, and I went to school at Durham College, and you know, traveling, you know, going on the cruise, like all these circumstances, for good or for worse. I personally like to internalize the good. I appreciate and I love and I cherish the good experiences that I've had in my past. But at the same time, as difficult as it is, I try not to dwell on the bad experiences or the experiences that, you know, hindered my progress, or you know, put me in bad situations that, you know, set me back physically, financially, mentally, you know. Experiences, they can either do one of two things. They can improve you or they can decay you. You know, there's no middle ground. There's no such thing as being neutral. Like, there's no such thing as neutral. You've got to pick a side. You can't exist in two places at one time. So, you know, in that parallel, in that metaphor, you can't exist in two places at one time. A lot of people exist in the past. They exist in a place where they can no longer affect. You can't affect the past, but you can affect the future. You can plan for the future's history. You can plan for the future's past by making decisions and having foresight today. And that's the way I like to approach life. And I think I'm not perfect. You know, I don't always operate that, you know, in a default state. Like, I'm not, you know, I make mistakes. You know, I fuck up too. I have concepts that I'm, you know, 100% certain they're correct, and then I end up being incorrect. I end up being completely wrong, and having to relearn and, you know, rethink about how I thought about life, or how I thought about this, you know, this framework of how I thought life worked, or how I thought people truly operated. Like, what's actually human, what's the true human nature and behavior under what's going on, under the you know, the appearance and the activity of whatever's going on. So, you know, I'm not perfect, but I recognize that having that mindset and having that, you know, that baseline, and I don't really even know what the word. I haven't even like thought of a word for it, or you know, a philosophy for it. But like, there's a certain level, there's a certain way of thinking about the world once you've accumulated enough knowledge, and I would say, like, you know, economics, and then like finance economics, and then something mathematical, like abstract. I would say once you've accumulated enough like abstract knowledge in like completely different fields, like aviation, for example, you know, philosophy, history, geography, you know, it could be anything. It literally be anything. Once you've accumulated enough knowledge, then you start, like, your mind starts to build frameworks of how the world works based on your abstract concepts of what you deem to know about the world around you. And the world around us is always changing, so by default, what was true yesterday is probably not true today. If we talk about the exact truth, the precise 100% truth. I don't think there's really a 100% precise truth. Truth is like 99.99999%, because truth, the value of truth equals X. X can change minutely over time, but it's generally consistent and it's generally stable over time, which is how we can come up with generally accepted principles, generally accepted accounting principles, or things that are concretely understandable and can apply to different circumstances, like physics, laws of nature, how human beings interact with each other and with the environment, with nature, and with the wild, or the laws of nature when it comes to technology and chips and artificial intelligence and compute, or the laws of flight, the laws of thrust, gravity, lift. So there's so many things, and the earth is always moving, the earth is always in rotation, the earth is always, I think, self-correcting and trying to find equilibrium to a certain extent. I think that's what the earth seeks to do, is to find equilibrium. And it goes through seasons and eras and cycles, ice ages and deserts, and then there was Pangea, and now there's 7 continents, and then even the 7 continents, the tectonic plates are moving, and then there's earthquakes, and then there's volcanoes. Like, the earth is chaos, and then there's us human beings that just add to the chaos. So the earth is a crazy place, which I get why we haven't seen aliens. Like, no alien life has come to visit us, because we're crazy people, and it's crazy here. Could you imagine? Like, imagine arriving to Earth for the first time, coming through our atmosphere, seeing A350s, these big ass commercial jets flying at close to the speed of sound. You're entering an atmosphere like that. Imagine the sound in the atmosphere, the amount of decibels that these engines make, with the thousands of planes that are in the air at any point in time. Then as fall further down into the atmosphere, you've got these mountains that are 8 miles high, 30,000 feet high, that create their own weather patterns, where there's wind going at 60 miles an hour, sometimes 120 miles an hour. Like, the earth is a crazy place, and it's constantly shaping, reforming, and moving, and thrusting, and evolving, and shedding, and and decaying. Like, and as that happens, which the earth is obviously the environment that we live in, things change. The recognition of how things change, the way we interact with our environment changes. So therefore, our knowledge and our constant learning should change. And a big part, a big part of foresight is to not to dwell in the past, but to understand the past. To really understand who, what, where, when, why in the past, and how that created the circumstances that we're currently in the present. And then now start to figure out, okay, how do we want to live in the future? What type of lifestyle or living standards do we want in the future? And then now we can think about action plans and activities that can get us there over the course of months and quarters and years and decades. But it's not just me only focused on the future. The future obviously takes up the majority of your time spent thinking, about future actions and future plans. But you still need to be. I still need to look in the past. I don't live in the past. I live in the future, but I study the past, and I learn from the past, learning from mistakes. The whole point of mistakes is to learn, and you don't learn if you don't make mistakes. My boss said something to this today. He said, how many mistakes did you make today? And I make mistakes every day, which means I'm learning every day. So rather than framing it as you making mistakes, making many mistakes, it means you're learning many things. You're learning many applications and contexts. You're learning new, context of different applications of life and the things around you. The things that you can touch and feel and smell and see and hear and so that's why I say let's talk insurance a little bit. Actually, that's why I always say when people ask me, oh yeah, why are my insurance prices increasing or changing, like why are my insurance prices never fixed, or no, they'll ask you why is my insurance prices always increasing. And it doesn't always increase. Like it goes both ways. There are years in insurance where it's it's an easy market and insurance rates start to decrease as there's less claims, there's more capacity, the insurance companies hold more capital, there's more, the pool is bigger, as one would say. Insurance companies can afford to decrease their rates, which adds to the pool because their pool is large enough. It's getting to be too big. So there's that market, and then there's hard markets where the pool is getting shrunken by claims and the frequency and severity of claims, both in car accidents and in natural disasters and weather patterns and fraud, both in home and car and business insurance and probably life insurance. So, insurance rates are dynamic. When people say, why are my insurance rates always changing, or why is my insurance rates always increasing? It's because probably where you are in your immediate environment, in your immediate neighborhood, the environment is changing. There's, it's not the same amount of people. It's not the same people and the same amount of people that live in your area that were there yesteryear or last year. There are different types of drivers. There's different people that are in your environment that'll affect the safety of whatever immediate neighborhood that you live in. They're going to be there, walking, going to the grocery store. They're going to be there, driving their vehicles. They're going to be having parties and barbecues and social events. Like those all present extra risks based on the type of people that are coming in. And likewise, if there's people moving out, if there's people that made the community safer, more stable, they were maybe a foundation of that community and they move out, best to bet the rates for that in a neighborhood will more than likely start to increase. Insurance rates will start to increase, the premiums will start to increase, because now that neighborhood presents more of a risk, especially if whoever takes up that, whoever moves into that home and is now taking up where that foundation once was, and that person is not, is nothing like that, the foundation of that neighborhood that had moved out. That new person put it this way, they're going to decrease the value of the neighborhood collectively. That's going to shoot up the insurance rates. If the previous neighbors, they abided by the law, they set the bylaws of the neighborhood, while let's say the new people who had moved in last year, they have no care for the law or no care for the neighborhood. Maybe they don't cut the grass, they don't maintain the sidewalks, they don't shovel they're not taking care of the home physically, and making sure the roof is maintained, the hot water tank, the furnace is, up to date, and, all the niceties, and maintaining the neighborhood that it's up to code and standard. That presents a risk for the insurance company. If, the new people that live there are fraud, adverse, and they have no care or calm of, and no conscience of committing fraud, and, they'll stage a claim and, file a claim. And even if that claim is denied, that's still expense on the insurance company that has to investigate and, pay the adjuster, pay the field adjuster, pay the insurance agent to set the policy up. It's, there's money it costs money to maintain the IT systems that hold the policies in the servers. There's so many different things. You have to maintain the infrastructure for repairs, for vehicle repairs. We have to organize the infrastructure for rebuilding back homes. Like, there's so many different things that insurance companies have their hands in, that it's not just one facet. It's not just, oh yeah, the person, my next door neighbor got into an accident and I shouldn't pay for his rates. Like, it's so much more nuanced than that. Especially if you're in a suburban or semi-suburban or urban neighborhood. Like, if you're anywhere in the GTA, or if you're anywhere in a metro area, to ask about why my insurance rates are what they are, there's thousands of videos on YouTube explaining how insurance rates are calculated, and how they get affected. And yeah, but that's enough insurance talk. I don't know how I even got on the subject, but yeah, insurance, a very good aspect as well. Insurance, they look at past data. They look at, okay, the last 20 years, this group of people, let's say, 50% white people, 20% black people, and then 10% Asian, and then, the remaining is maybe, I don't know, you name it. This neighborhood and group of people, they've cost the property and casualty insurance companies of Ontario a collective $1 million in claims in the last 10 years. So now they know, this postal code, this zip code cost $1 million a year in claims on average over the last 10 years. It's a clear trend, a stable trend, and then they can do that same thing for each neighborhood. And now they say, okay, within this neighborhood, how many homes are there? How many households are there? And then we can just split the cost. Now we know what to charge for insurance. The core cost of claims. So they're looking at past, and now they're looking at the future. So now, looking into the future, what are the immigration patterns projected to be over the next 5 to 10 years? And where are those people likely to move to? What cities, what towns, what neighborhoods? So they think about the future. They think about, what households may be stressed, or what households may be thinking about moving out of the neighborhood or putting their homes up for sale. And, they know that, if those people that are in the neighborhood have lower claims or haven't filed any claims, then they know potentially there's going to be a need to increase cost, or, take rate, as they say. But that's why insurance rates are always changing. It's because our neighborhoods are always changing. There's always people coming in, and there's always people coming out. And there's, for the majority of drivers are honest, safe, and meaningful drivers. But then we have the bad dozen, the dirty dozen. So the dirty dozen increases the rates for everybody else. It's the risk of a few shared among the many. So this concept of living in the past while thinking about the future and projecting into the future, you need to know when to apply both, if you know what I mean. You need to know when to think and learn from the past, but not to dwell from it or to absorb the negatives of the past, because that can affect you in your present. You can't control or change the past. Like the negatives, the less you think about it, the less you'll remember about the negatives. Like the less you think about the negatives, the more your memory starts to fade it, starts to erase it. So the less things about that memory you'll start to remember, the less you think about it. If that makes sense. So that's number one. When you think about the past, think about learning opportunities. Think you have to think honestly. You really have to think honestly and holistically about yourself. You really have to say, okay, what actions did I make in that moment, in that situation? What was my reaction in the moment? What did I do? What did I say? What was my body language? What was I portraying? What was I projecting? And then, think about how that influenced the outcome, or influence the experience of that experience to make it better or worse. So that's kind of the way you want to think about the past. And then now thinking about the future, that's where you got to spend the majority of your time. For me, I spend the majority of my time in the future thinking about, yeah, okay, I'm in my 30s now. Where do I want to see and live? How do I want to live in my 40s? And let's leave it there. How do I want to live in my 40s? Where am I at now? And how do I want to live in my 40s? And your goal has to be relatable and attainable to the present. Like, if you're making $50,000 today, your goal can't be in 5 years to make $1 million a year. Like, if it happens, great. Like, obviously, if it happens, great. But the likelihood, the realistic likelihood of you going from 50,000 in 2026 to $1 million in per year in income in 2031 is not very likely, unless something drastic happens. Unless either you change drastically, both mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything, and you're just a completely different person in that short time span, or you won the lottery or something just gifted and amazing happened to you. But those are extremely unlikely. So the likelihood of you staying at 50 or slightly increasing to maybe 70 in 5 years, that's probably a lot more likely. So planning and knowing that, and tallying up your income, your realistic income over the next years, and figuring out how you can optimize that to get to wherever it is that to get to this how you see yourself living in 2031. So that's one. That's the financial aspect. And then there's the health aspect, in terms of physically and physiologically. Physiologically, is that the word? Your physiology. How do you see yourself? Like, what type of movements do you want to be capable of doing? Like, what type of activities do you see yourself doing? Do you see yourself playing hockey? Do you see yourself alpine climbing mountains? Are you going to be jumping out of planes, skydiving? Are you going to be just chilling on the couch, sleeping? Does your work require you to be in a certain physical form, in a physical shape? Are you an oil rig driller worker, and it's active, like you're lifting heavy shit and twisting and turning and bending, like your body's, you're working. Or are you a mechanic where you overheat and steam and under hot oil and catching burns, like HVAC as well? Like, is your income dependent on you physically, where you need your limbs, you need your physical extremities to be in good health and strong to perform your work and to earn your income? So these are things to think about. So 5-10 years, what can you do to make sure you prioritize your health and grow your health so that you're even healthier, even though chronologically, age wise, you're 5 years older, health wise, health span wise, you know, in terms of not molecules, but your cells, like your cellular age could be 5 years younger. So, if you treat your body right, like eating the number one, eating the proper foods on a consistent basis. Like obviously, you can have good meals, like sugar, just having a combination, just eating the whole spectrum of foods, just fruits, vegetables, pastas, rice, chicken, beef, lobster, shrimp, like everything. Soup, like you can eat burgers, the chicken, anything. You eat the whole spectrum of foods, but in proportion to, in proportion to how you want your body to feel. So obviously, major protein, healthy fats, and vegetables. Those are the mains. Steak, potatoes, like eating the right foods in the right proportions. That will treat your body, and then the little things. You taking your multivitamin, your omega 3. Omega 3 is key for the skin and for the brain, and what else is good for a heart, I think. So omega 3 is key. I've been taking omega 3 for like 20 years, like every day, consistent. Like flossing your fucking teeth every day, like that's key. Floss your teeth every day. A lot of people probably don't do that, but I floss my teeth and I brush my teeth. Like in the morning, I brush my teeth and I'll floss, and then rinse out, like sprint out, and then brush my teeth again. And my teeth feels like what do you call it? Like not the fluoride. I guess after you go to the dentist and you drink the fluoride and you spit it out and your mouth is like not sticky, but like has that what's the word for it? It's like a tangy, like your mouth the teeth is like sticky but silky. Fucking right word for it, but yeah, my teeth feels like that in the morning, and then sometimes I don't brush my teeth in the evening time. It depends, but I don't know why you guys need to know that, but fuck, where was I even going with that? Sometimes you guys you blame people for your circumstances. Obviously, blaming family. You blame your siblings. Because you're the last sibling, you feel like you say that you're disadvantaged, or if a trauma happened to you when you were young or continued to happen to you if you're young, you use that to excuse yourself for your terrible behavior here in the present, and rather than eating that, like eat the trauma and become a better person for it, in spite of, rather than using the trauma to excuse yourself and to lower your standards, to lower your baseline, to accept shitty behavior, for you to to project shit, for you to want people to accept your shitty behavior based on your own trauma from the past. Have you thought about maybe eating that? Eat it. It's happened to you. You can't change it. You eat it, and then you move from it. You move on from it. You learn from it. Like, find another, instead of thinking about the bad, like obviously if it's a trauma, something bad happened, but is there something you can learn or take from it? And then think about it and apply it to today. And what's probably going to happen? You're just going to not think about the bad of it as much. And like I was saying before, it'll start to fade away into the background, and your brain will start to erase memories of it, erase the bad memories of it. If you start to think of ways that you could have learned from the nuggets of the experience, or the things that you could have learned from it, in all angles, like when bad things happen, there's so many different angles that you can approach like so many different perspectives that you can think about a bad situation. So then it's tough for me too. Like even I've been in my fair share of bad situations, and it's tough for me to find the right perspectives. Even now, like, and I still, even today, like right now, I'm building how I think about the world and my perspectives. It's not fixed. Like, I don't call myself educated. I'm always in education. I'm a student of the world. I'm always just learning new shit. Like I always say, like, I just like learning new shit. I'm a student of the world. Like, I'm a student of the game. So that's all. I like to practice. Like, get the hours, get the reps in. And I'm not perfect, and things that I think today is probably gonna be wrong tomorrow, or the things that I say wrong today, I'll have to correct tomorrow. But that's up to me, and it's has to be the honest thing for me to go and to make sure I correct myself and to address any conscious incorrect or wrongdoing that I may have consciously did or unconsciously said or done. So as long as I'm aware and I'm doing that and I'm actively learning and correcting and applying the lessons into the future, applying the lessons to my future outcomes, then life should be good. That's why for the most part I'm optimistic about the future. Although society gives me a lot of reasons to be skeptical and to be cynical, and but I guess we all eventually learn and grow, and we cringe at our past selves, especially being younger, and as we get into our 20s and 30s. My beard looks scruff. Fuck. But I just look scruff in general, bro. I need to. Yeah, my hair. Don't even watch that. You guys, I don't know what I'm doing with it, but I might just keep it like this, cause I don't know. Yeah, it's my sweater. Yeah, I wear this sweater at home because it's perfect, because it's not too warm, but it's not too cold, because it keeps me warm, but then it doesn't keep me too warm. So I'm like, it keeps me at a good temperature, So yeah, so I wear this sweater a lot, and it's made of good material, as you can probably tell how it's lasted. Damn. Why am I talking about my sweater? What the fuck? But yeah, you guys, stop living in the freaking past, bro. Or continue to live in the past. Your choice. Continue to blame and use childhood traumas to absolve your responsibility and your lack of accountability today. Like, you continue to do it, then go right ahead. But society continues to progress and learn and grow and better themselves. You just get the people that refuse to grow and better themselves just get left behind back in history. Like, you guys don't move with the people. You guys don't move with society and life. You guys just get left behind, especially economically. And on that, like, economics wise, again, what decisions have you made in the past in your personal finances that have placed you in a circumstance today where you're now struggling, and maybe you're not where you wanted to be or could be financially today. Like me, not that I blame having a family, but I know that has set me back financially, that now I have to find, as my family's getting older, now I have to find ways to kind of make sure that I catch up to my age, to where I need to be financially. But now I have to account for the family. I have to account for my son and the extra expenses and everything that goes along with that, and making sure he's got what he needs, both mentally, physically, financially, and and materials wise, and educationally, especially educationally. Books, toys, technology, just getting out in the world and interacting and speaking and talking to people and hearing different people, and hearing and seeing different perspectives. Like, you need to just, like I said the other video, like, experience life naturally. Experience life naturally. in all its might, rather than like, why would you walk around with a filter and glasses that had, you know, a filter on it? Like, do people wear glasses because they like to? Maybe some, no, but people wear glasses for the most part because they have to. So why, you know, so why change your body? If you're not happy with your body is something that you can change for the most extent. So why not take advantage and find ways you can work with your body rather than working against and trying to, you know, beat down your body. Like, when you treat your body that way, like, you know, when people that, you know, over drink or over smoke or, you know, refuse to kind of exercise or do any physical motion, the people that refuse to spend time just, you know, reading something healthy or spending time listening to music and enjoying themselves, dancing, the people that refuse to meditate, like, that's not good for your body. So in return, your body's going to start to beat itself down, and it's not going to treat you as a spiritual being the way it would otherwise. So, you know, like I say, make these small investments. Even for me, it's hard too. Like, yo, yesterday I had a whole pack of freaking Haribo gummy bears, not gummy bears, the assorted gummy candies, but they're, you know, 100 and freaking 70 grams, I think it was, and I ate the whole pack in a day. So I'm not perfect, but I know I have to eat in proportion. Like, I can't eat a pack of gummies for like another 8 months. Like, and my body's probably not gonna crave it or want it for the next 8 months. So, you know, I've trained my body to want to, you know, to crave what it needs to function the way I expect it to function. And I feel like people should, you know, maybe approach their body like that. You know, treat your body the way you want it to function. That should be a good way to put it. And, you know, and then on the topic of money, treat your money the way you want the money to treat you. Like, if you don't treat your money with respect, how are you going to expect the money to grow? Like, if you keep giving your money away, you keep spending off and giving your money away to family, to friends, to stores, to Amazon, to Google, then you give the money away. How can the money work for you if you give the money away? Like, I don't get it. And then people, you know, call you cheap or a stickler for money or you know, let loose. But no, yeah, like, obviously you have money, you have budget allocated for that, for fun. You have, like, it's called a budget. Like, you guys act as if, you know, you have to be in this box, like rigid finance, or, you know, you have to be completely open, free, and willy-nilly with your money because, you know, YOLO. But no, you allocate money in budgets, in buckets, in proper sufficient quantity. Like, obviously your bigger buckets are going to be more important than the smaller buckets. Like, your fund money is not going to be as big than the major buckets when your income isn't as high. But as your income starts to increase and you build up your assets, then the fund bucket starts to become a lot larger than the, you know, the mandatory bucket, the not the discretionary income, but the mandatory expenses. Your fund bucket, your fund budget is 10 times the mandatory overhead expenses. So, you know, that's the goal that all of us want to get. But in the beginning, if we're not shrinking the fund bucket and then allocating the asset bucket, then we're never going to get to that, you know, fund bucket being large. If we don't minimize the fund bucket and allocate that margin difference, that room, that breath, that freedom to an asset that can build more margin and more freedom, more cash to buy more. Like, all you guys gotta do is buy a bank stock. Like, it's not even that hard. Like, life is just so easy. Like, buy a bank stock. Anybody, even if you're your first job, you're 13, 14, 15, take your money, you're making $100 a week or whatever it is, go buy RBC bank stock and just Never look at it. Just not sit. Never look at it again. Just continue to buy. Just, you know, log in, buy one quantity, log out. Next 2 weeks, log in, buy one quantity. Then as your income increases, then you increase the quantity. Like you know, you do that for a period of time. I promise you'll be well off than anybody else that's trying to sell you financial or life improvement advice financially. That's all you gotta do. Continue to reinvest the dividends, continue to invest as much of your income and put it into an asset, and then you're well off, bro. Sorry, I just made you into a millionaire, and this is probably the third time in a month, just by doing that. So like I said, it's not about the knowledge. Like, buying a bank stock is not hard. Buying a stable bank stock is not hard. To identify a stable bank stock, long-term bank stock, is not hard. But it's the action of setting aside money today, allocating money and budget today from fun and expenses to put the money into an asset like that takes time to pay you back. You know, people don't want to wait. People want now. People want immediacy. People don't want to, delay gratification. So, which is the whole point of finance. The whole thing about finance is delayed gratification. You set aside fun now to have more fun later. Like, that's all that it is. That's all investing is. That's all really investing is not having fun today so I can have more fun tomorrow. And the further that, the more you grow that, the more that spread, the longer that timeline, then at that point when that time is to start to enjoy the fruits of your labor, you're able to have more fun compared to those that didn't do that, or compared to those that decided to front load their fun. Which I find, women typically do that. Women typically front load their fun and income and economic mobility in their early years, in their 20s and 30s, and then from what I observe, unless that woman's extremely difficult, she's struggling in her late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and it's just crazy sad. But like I said, to be honest, not that I don't care, but she put herself in that circumstance. She had 40, 30, whatever amount of years to put herself in that circumstance. And even doing nothing about a certain outcome is doing something about the circumstance. So even if you don't acknowledge or change anything you're doing, or improve your behavior today, you do nothing to improve, but you do nothing to worsen yourself, then you're gonna still have that problem, because you're still falling behind, because we live in an things are moving forward. We live in an inflationary society, culture, environment, economy. So I don't even know where we was even kind of going with that, but this video is getting long, 53 minutes. I'm gonna end it there. This was a good talk. Hopefully you guys got at least a 1-2 thing out of this, and apply what you can, discard what you don't need. I'm not gonna ask you to subscribe, because I really don't give a shit. But if you have something good to contribute it in the comments, and I'll contribute back, and keep it positive. I'm down for the negative. I'm down for the negativity too. Any not the negativity, but any constructive feedback. I love feedback, both bad and positive. I'm not too fond of positive feedback. Positive feedback's always nice, obviously, but I like to see constructive feedback too. And you're probably guys are gonna talk about the lack of a basic YouTube channel, or maybe the audio didn't come out properly. I don't know, but someone's gonna find something about this video to complain about. Maybe something I said, or how I said it, or in the context that I said it or didn't say it. But it's getting late and I'm tired and I'm hungry, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. I'm Bugsy Benjamin. Peace.